So many of us, myself included, kick off the day with a nice cup of coffee. But have you ever stopped to think about what that simple drink is actually doing to your body? Today, we're diving into a really cool personal experiment that measured the exact blood sugar impact of a single homemade milk coffee. And trust me, the results might just make you rethink your morning ritual.
So, this is the big question, right? We all know black coffee is pretty neutral, but what happens the moment you add milk and, more importantly, a little bit of sugar? We all kind of assume it has an impact, but how big of an impact? Well, this little experiment goes beyond just guessing and gives us a solid number to work with.
Okay, so to get a real, reliable answer, you've got to have a reliable setup. So before we get to the big reveal, let's break down exactly what was in this cup of coffee. You have to control the variables.
Now, precision is everything in an experiment like this. We're not just looking at some random coffee. We're looking at a very specific 250 milliliter drink. The base was exactly half 3% fat milk and half water. And for the sweetness, just 1 single teaspoon of plain white sugar. Every little detail is accounted for.
And for anyone out there who's tracking their intake, this specific coffee comes in at around 90 calories. Now that might not sound like much, but as we're about to find out, even a pretty low-calorie drink can have a very real, very measurable effect on your body.
All right, we've got the recipe, we know the calories, it's time for the main event. What did that continuous glucose monitor actually show after this coffee was finished? This is the moment of truth.
So, what was the number?
And there it is, a 26 milligram per deciliter increase in blood sugar. Now, is that a lot? The person who ran the test noted that this isn't too bad. And to give you some perspective, after a full meal, a healthy person's blood sugar might go up towards 140. So yeah, a 26-point jump is pretty modest, but to really understand it, we need some context. And that's exactly where we're headed next, because a number on its own is just, well, it's just a number. To really understand what that 26-point spike means, we need to see how it stacks up against some other drinks we might have. This is the question we all want an answer to, isn't it? How does our little 90-calorie milk coffee compare to its cousins, like black coffee, or maybe even a cup of tea with the same stuff in it? The comparison is where we're going to find the real insight.
Okay, this chart tells the whole story. It's fascinating. Look all the way to the left. You've got black coffee, which, as you'd probably guess, had a 0 impact on blood sugar. But now look at the other two bars. Our milk coffee gave us that 26-point spike, and the milk tea with the exact same amount of sugar, a 24-point spike. Wow, they are practically identical. So here's the bottom line. The difference between a milk coffee with a teaspoon of sugar and a milk tea with a teaspoon of sugar is basically nothing. We're talking a 26 versus a 24-point increase. The conclusion from this experiment was that you can pretty much just have whichever one you're in the mood for and expect a very, very similar response from your body. Now that's a seriously practical takeaway.
So, let's recap. We've learned that adding milk and a teaspoon of sugar to your coffee gives you a pretty modest 26-point blood sugar spike, almost the exact same as a cup of tea. So, that brings us to the next logical question, doesn't it? Can we do even better?
And you can almost see the wheels turning here. This is what the experimenters started wondering right after seeing the results. What if you took the sugar out of the equation but kept the sweetness? What would happen if a calorie-free sweetener was used instead?
And that's really the big thought to leave you with. We've seen that the impact of sugar is real, even in a small amount. So it leads us to wonder, could the future of a sweet, guilt-free cup of coffee be as simple as swapping out that 1 teaspoon of sugar for something else? That is definitely an experiment for another day. What do you think?